This is not breaking news. This is not a scandal. This is not about one person. This is about a system doing something it was never supposed to do. Quietly, methodically, in plain sight. For decades, the assumption was simple. Stability flowed in one direction. Trust followed power. Allies aligned because the center held. That assumption no longer holds. And the moment it breaks, nothing replaces it cleanly. What you are watching right now is not confrontation. It's preparation, not panic, calculation. Institutions adjusting to risk they were never meant to price in. The most dangerous changes don't announce themselves. They normalize. They arrive wrapped in routine language. Exercises, meetings, calls, reassurances. If this feels abstract, stay with me, because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And if you stop here, you miss the part where it becomes irreversible. If you're still watching, make sure you stay with this. Share it. Follow it. Because the next step in this story is where assumptions finally start to fail. And that's where we need to go next. What actually controls the system now is not ideology. It's not elections. It's not even power in the traditional sense. It's predictability. For most of the modern era, global alignment was built around a simple calculation. You could disagree with the center. You could protest it. You could even oppose it rhetorically, but you could predict it. And prediction is what allows systems to function without constant force. That is no longer the dominant variable. What has taken its place is risk management. Quiet, technical, bureaucratic risk management. Allies are no longer asking, do we agree? They are asking, what happens if this turns suddenly? And once that question enters the system, everything changes. Because institutions don't wait for speeches. They don't wait for clarification. They adjust in advance. They harden. They hedge. They prepare contingencies that never used to be necessary. This is not about defiance. It's about insulation, about reducing exposure to uncertainty at the center. And once systems start insulating themselves, coordination becomes optional. That's the frame you need. Because what looks like cooperation on the surface is something else underneath. And the shift didn't start loudly. It started slowly. There was a time when alignment was automatic. Not because of affection, because deviation was riskier than compliance. Before, disagreements happened inside the system, quietly, through channels, behind doors. The assumption was that the structure itself was stable, even if the people inside it changed. That assumption shaped decades of behavior. Now compare that to what's happening. The language hasn't changed much. The meetings still happen. The alliances still exist on paper. But the behavior underneath has shifted. Planning that used to be centralized is now distributed. Trust that used to be implicit is now conditional. Coordination that used to be assumed is now rehearsed carefully. This is the most dangerous kind of transformation. The slow kind, the kind that feels responsible, reasonable, even boring. No single moment to point to, no single decision to blame, because systems don't break when they're attacked. They break when they quietly stop relying on each other. And once that reliance disappears, the structure remains, but the function does not. You can't see that from speeches. You can only see it from behavior. And the behavior tells us something important. What comes next is not theory. It's the first visible symptom. Then something happens that breaks the illusion of normalcy. Not a declaration, not an announcement, a movement. Uniforms, aircraft, flags that usually arrive together only when the system is confident, now arriving because it isn't. Framed as exercises, described as cooperation, labeled routine. But routines don't usually carry this much signaling weight. What matters is not the logistics, it's the direction. Forces moving not outward, but inward. Not toward an adversary, but toward reassurance, toward sovereignty, toward a line that suddenly needs to be marked physically, not rhetorically. Listen carefully to the language. It's defensive, calibrated, almost polite. Red lines, respect, self-determination. These are words systems use when they are trying to prevent escalation they can now imagine. This isn't escalation yet. It's acknowledgement. Acknowledgement that something once unthinkable now has to be planned around. That trust alone is no longer sufficient. That paper guarantees need steel nearby. If this feels like an overreaction, pause. Because systems don't mobilize to make points. They mobilize to manage risk. Stay with this. Share it if you haven't. Because this moment is being misread as the story itself. It isn't. It's only the symptom. What you're seeing isn't defiance. It's architecture. This is the part most people miss, because it doesn't look dramatic. There are no speeches announcing it, no doctrine unveiled, no emergency sessions broadcast live, just process, quiet, technical, relentless. The system now works like this. When uncertainty rises at the center, responsibility diffuses outward. Decisions that used to be deferred are pulled forward. Allies stop waiting to be reassured and start building buffers, not against enemies, against volatility. Who benefits from this shift? Those who can move first, those with flexibility, those who can absorb short-term friction in exchange for long-term autonomy. Who absorbs the damage? Everyone whose security depended on coordination rather than redundancy. This is how fragmentation happens without collapse. The structure remains, the symbols remain, the language remains, but the load-bearing assumptions are replaced. Trust becomes conditional, alignment becomes transactional, solidarity becomes situational. No one announces this change because announcing it would accelerate it, so it stays embedded in exercises, deployments, contingency plans, all perfectly reasonable, all defensible, until they add up to something else. And once you understand the mechanism, the next development isn't surprising, it's inevitable. Things escalate quickly when the buffers fail. This time, the fracture isn't quiet. It isn't a shift in rhetoric or a small repositioning of troops. It's a visible rupture in the relationships built over decades. The first concrete shock comes when the institutions that once stabilized the system suddenly stop supporting each other, when their alliances, once unshakable, now begin to fray visibly. It's not the violence of military engagement, it's the violence of erosion. It happens first through public actions, signals that seem small but are anything but. A formalized withdrawal of trust, a refusal to cooperate, a military presence that was once inconceivable, now landing unannounced. Troops stationed not for conflict, but as a quiet assertion of control, signaling that the balance has changed. And still, no one calls it what it is, because no one has to. It's already too late. This isn't war yet. But it's no longer peace, either. It's the moment of recognition. And once you see the mechanism at work, the next phase becomes inevitable. The question is, will anyone act on it before it's too late? Here's how it works. Systems don't break from chaos. They break from certainty. But the certainty is always in the wrong direction. It's the precision with which the system moves now that matters. The damage is almost mathematical in its predictability. Step by step, decision by decision, certain shifts begin to snowball. And now, people, countries, institutions, alliances are acting with foresight. Not because they want to, but because they have to. Who benefits from this? The ones who anticipate the break. Those who position themselves with flexibility, with the understanding that the system will no longer bear their weight unchallenged. Who absorbs the damage? The ones left clinging to the old order. This is not a shockwave that hits all at once. It's a steady rise in temperature, invisible to the untrained eye, but inevitable in its acceleration. Each part of the world adjusting inch by inch until one day the point of no return is crossed. And by then, no one remembers when the clock started ticking, when the break happened, because it's too late for that now. And the most dangerous part? No one can say what happens next. The future is no longer a fixed idea. It is a question, one we can't answer just yet. But that doesn't mean we're not headed toward an answer. For every day that passes, this question gains urgency. The fractures widen. The adjustments become more complex. Every small decision is a step toward a future that no one can predict. No one can guarantee. And yet we are already on the path to it. Each player, each nation can feel the strain. They will continue to make moves, position themselves, protect their own interests. Some will double down on the old order, trying to revive what's slipping away. Others will bet on new alignments, building towards something that may or may not be better. And in the midst of all this, the system itself continues to bend, quietly, steadily, toward an unknown conclusion. But one thing is certain. The center is no longer holding, and no one knows what will rise in its place. We are left with a system at the crossroads. Which path will we take? That's a question only time can answer. But time, as we're beginning to see, is not on our side. Stay with this, follow it, share it, because the next chapter will come sooner than you think. Thank you for watching.